I was at a ministerial gathering. It was actually a retreat when I was in ministerial school. And we were in Northern California, and I forget the name of the retreat. It was a magnificent center. It was organic. It was just absolutely incredible. And there was this minister who'd been a minister for like 45 years at that time. So he would have been, if he's alive today, he would have been a minister now 57 years. So 57 minus where we are, he would have just gotten to know Ernest Holmes right before he died. And one of the things he said to us, there were a gathering of about 6 students, he said, if you simply say the we believe statements, changing the we to I, every day you will have an incredible spiritual practice. And that really has stuck with me. For a while I did that. And then I got off and I'm doing other things. I'm doing my mantras, my affirmations, and I'm doing other ways of expressing spirituality. And then as I was sitting down thinking about what do I talk to you about today, I said, let's go back to that. Let's examine these statements that were in the Living of the Science of Mind, that they're we believe statements, and see how we can look at them in that. So we're going to be doing this, we believe. What do we believe? We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. So it's absolute. Think about the word absolute. Nothing but it. It is it. Okay? That means it's infinite. It means it's all-knowing. It's everywhere present. It has always been. It always will be. And what about it? It's self-existent cause. It's the only cause that creates. It's self-existent. It knows itself, okay? And that it's indestructible. It always has been, always will be. Nothing can destroy it. Because if there's only one and there's nothing else, nothing can destroy it, right? If there's two, the possibility of destruction can happen. That's why the idea of a devil and a God makes absolutely no sense. Do you get that? It makes no sense whatsoever. The idea that there's a place called hell can't possibly exist because there's only one infinite expression. So if there is a hell, it's within the infinite. And what we've come to understand that hell is a state of mind that we get into when we are not connected, when we're not living up to our potential, our dreams. We're going against that which is vital to us. This one, meaning infinite spirit, manifests itself in and through all creation, but it is not absorbed in it. So everything is it. In other words, it created everything out of itself, but it is not attached to it. Does that make sense? It has no attachment. That's why it's not absorbed by its creation. It's not attached to what individuals are expressing, because why? It gave us freedom. It gave us everything we needed and gave us the freedom to express and how we desire to experience our life. And because it is all loving, it does not judge us. The sad thing is, we do all that. We judge that. It was interesting. I went to my chiropractor on Thursday, and I said, I've got some funk going on. I said, what's this funk going on? I know it's emotion. Here's what happened to me. My dad died. I'm a new grandfather. I'm going, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? So muscle tests me. Turns out I had these emotions of guilt I was not even aware of. And the guilt was because I had guilt that I wasn't with my father when he passed. Did you get that? I didn't even know it was there, but I remember for 4 months I was deliberating, when do I go see my dad? When do I go see my dad? When do I go see my dad? Then I finally got it, well, let's go see our dad. I scheduled a time. Well, the son of a gun decided to die a week before. Can you even imagine and he died on what? April 1st date. What a son of a gun. And it's like, it's Easter, like I can be away on Easter? I mean, Dad. In other words, Dad's saying, I want to do this on my own. But you see, my perception was I had to have been there. I had thing, this obligation that was built into me since I was a kid. By who? By my dad. And I had to release that in order to be free. I can't be absorbed by someone else's creation. Does that make sense? I have to be focused on my creation. And I can let everyone else focus on their own creation because they're powerful. Everyone in this world is powerful enough to do anything that anyone has ever done. It's just a matter of, can we realize it? This manifest universe, the whole universe, is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outpicturing or outcome of the infinite self-knowingness. In other words, it's logical that God created all this. It's a self-knowingness. God said, let there be light, there was light. Let there be this. Let there be Lee Wolak, there was Lee Wolak. And my father and mother were happy. Isn't that amazing how in a second your whole perspective can change? In a second, everything in your life, your values change in a second. I was doing the workshop yesterday. I was teaching the Creating Your Self-Life workshop all day long. And we were doing our values, and I put my values right up there. Spiritual self-actualization, teaching and speaking about how to better self-love through conscious living, building intimate relationships and community, health and well-being, and being financially free to do what I want, when I want, how I want. Those are my values. And all of a sudden, I got the call that, Dad, you're now a grandfather. And I went, whoa. Doesn't fit into my values. What am I going to do about that? Well, I got to figure that out. So you know what I did? I said, Gene, you go up first. So Monday, tomorrow, I'm sending my wife up there for 6 days. I'm not doing it for that reason, but she gets to choose where she goes. But I'm using this, it's a story. Anyway, I've got to build in, and what I've done is I built in Claire into each of my values. So when I look at spiritual self-actualization, I say, okay, can I be the light of God in Claire's life so she can see life clearer than she would have under any other circumstance? My second value, I want to build an incredibly intimate relationship with this young being so that she knows love at the deepest level. I want to teach her about self-love the way I was never taught and teach her how to live consciously. I want to be an example of her, how a grandfather who's 66 years older than her can be 15 years young all the time. And then I want to teach her that this universe is abundant and that she can have and experience anything she wants through the power within her. She does not have to rely on some man coming into her life. Hallelujah, Jesus. Because I got a lot of people come to me and said, hey, Reverend Lee, you know, I ain't got all the talents in the world, but, you know, I'm a pretty good-looking babe. How about praying for a good man to come in and take care of me? And I go, well, that's an interesting prayer. I want to ask the question, is that a self-loving prayer? And one woman said, yes, it is. I said, okay, we'll pray for that. I didn't know any of this was coming out today. Anyway. We believe in the incarnation of spirit in man. And remember, Ernest Holmes is writing at a time, this is written like in 1930. So he's written at a time where everything's in the male gender. Forget that. Think about it in the neutral gender, in the human being gender, because it's not about men. We've got to get over this idea. There's no such thing as men are better than women. We're all equal. And yet we're different. Can I be real clear about that? So yes, I am equal to my wife. We are equal beings. We're equal expressions of the infinite, but we are different. She has this, and I have that. Does that make sense? We're doing a little Seinfeld. This versus that. But that doesn't make us better or worse than anyone. It just makes us a different way of expressing life. We believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. So isn't it great? The soul will live forever. The soul has lived forever. The soul is that part that knows its connection to the divine, that will always know its connection to the divine. And so when we shed this human body, the soul continues forward for eternity. becoming more of itself, becoming more aware of its infinite nature. So death is not something to be feared. It's like when the child is in the mother's womb. It just knows what it's like to be in the mother's womb, and it feels good and it feels safe. And then all of a sudden it's passed out of the mother and it's in this world. Death is literally you're in the womb and you're being birthed out into the next dimension. But because we have this mind, this ego mind, and we're thinking we don't know what that next dimension is, and oh my God, we got to fear it. Well, think about this. Is there a reason to fear if you know that you are eternal, immortal, and you are continuously unfolding forever and ever? No, there's no reason to have fear. But it takes time to get that into your head. Do you get that? Even when someone close to you dies, as much as I thought I had this down, when my father died, I had the rush of emotion. It just consumed me. I said, where is this coming from? I wanted to go to the doctor because I said, holy crap, someone injected me with a shot of estrogen. You know? Because all of a sudden tears are coming down for the stupidest of reasons. I'm saying, am I going through menopause? What's happening to me? And I realized what I've been doing is I've been doing a meditation practice called Sri Vidya. And Sri Vidya is about awakening the Divine Mother, awakening the Divine Feminine within you. And that's when I bring Guruji here on May 6th. Guruji's one who teaches that. And it's about when you awaken the Divine Feminine, you awaken yourself to the Divine Masculine, you see both of them, and now you're living in balance. That's when you've got life in its perfection living through you. We believe that the kingdom of heaven is within us, and the experience of this kingdom, we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. In other words, heaven, or this idea of heaven, is an experience we have based on how we're thinking, acting, speaking, and feeling in a moment. When you meet someone, when you look into a baby's eyes, you're in heaven. When you're judging that person as evil, you're in hell. It's a state of consciousness that we move in and out of. One of the lines that always got me was in Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God. I remember it like it was yesterday when he said, even Adolf Hitler is in heaven. Go back. We are eternal, immortal, and continually unfolding. There is no hell, there is no devil. His experience on this planet brought him a lot of hell. Those who bought into that experience got a lot of hell. Those who fought it had hell, because war is hell. So hell was the consciousness of the human race at that time. Do you get that? You can't have war unless both parties want a war. So at any time, this was real interesting. I was watching something the other day, and it was talking about the United States. We believe the Taliban to be evil, absolute evil. And the Taliban believe us to be absolute evil. Do you get that? Why? Because we're coming from different perspectives, and each of us says, well, they're not for democracy. They're saying they're not for giving us our freedom. They want to control us. You see, no one wins in that. What we need to do is find a way to collaborate with each other and find a way that we create a world that can work for both of us. But we're not looking at it that way. We want to win. And when we want to win, we're not in love. It's never been done on the planet that way. It's something to strive toward. Will we ever achieve it fully? I don't know. Because there's always going to be contrast. That's something that I've really had to begin to embrace. In the human form, there will be always contrast, because it's through the contrast that we grow. So to wish for complete and perfect world peace, I don't think it's ever going to happen. To find peace in your heart, I think that can happen. Will it always be peaceful in your heart? Only if you choose it and when you choose it. But remember, there's going to be contrast coming at you, contrast coming at you, contrast coming at you. And when that contrast comes, it's going to take away the peace. And then your job is to return to it. We believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. In other words, we believe there's a law that responds to the nature of our thought. This law doesn't care what you put out there. What you believe, it demonstrates back to you. But it's personal to you Because whatever you believe, it gives you. Do you get that? You have this thing, this law that's everywhere present, that's everyone, and it's responding to you the way you are. That's a personal relationship. In other words, my wife responds to me the way I am, not the way I wish her to be. Do you get that? So when you want to become and have a better relationship, you've got to become the man or the woman who is in a greater way loving. And when you're loving more, that person, if they're open, receptive, become that, and you come together in union to support and grow each other. You can't change someone else. You can change yourself, which becomes a light which attracts to you that which is like you. We believe the ultimate goal of life is to be the complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and this goal is surely to be attained by all. In other words, anyone can do what anyone else can do. Jesus said, I come here so that you can have life more abundantly, and then he followed it up and said, what this that I do, you can do and more. He wasn't saying I'm the great exception. He said, I am the great example. But we have been taught, or I've been taught in my upbringing, that he's got to be way up here and I'm down here and I need to worship Jesus. And I couldn't do that. But I can look Jesus in the eye and say, hey, brother, thank you for the lesson. Thank you for being the example. Because we're all equal. If we're all expressions of God, no one is better than anybody else. That's something that Christianity is really, really all about. But we tend to forget that. We believe in the unity of all life and that the highest God and the innermost God is the same. In other words, there's unity because why? We're all part of the infinite. And this outer expression of God, this infinite expression of God, is the same presence within us. It's the same power, the same law that's responding to us, that's responding to the all. But it responds based on the consciousness. And you see, our consciousness is about this big. I use the example of a jelly bean store. Can you imagine a jelly bean store with 450 flavors of jelly beans? Ooh, that's cool. My two favorite flavors are banana and root beer. And you take a bite and they're so delicious. But I'm so focused on the banana and root beer, I forgot that there's 448 other flavors to taste. And they're just as good. And that's what we forget. We put our focus on just this. And there's all this infinite stuff around us yet that we can experience if we just open up our focus to the possibility. And remember, it's infinite, so the possibility never runs out. Do you get that? It never runs out. We believe in the direct revelation of truth through the intuitive and spiritual nature in us, and that any person may become a revealer of truth who lives in contact with this indwelling presence. In other words, you don't need a guru, you don't need a priest, you don't need anybody to have a direct revelation because you are connected. And when you become still, what is it that's saying? Be still and know. When you become still and you listen, that divine wisdom will come through you. I did that in meditation today when I asked you to tap into your little child within you. And I said, ask these questions of that little child. I used the word child in there because children do not have preconceived ideas. Adults have all these preconceived ideas, and those preconceived ideas limit us. Ooh, it's better to be a kid. What was in the Bible that only you got to be a child to enter the kingdom of heaven? Because the child doesn't have the blinders on, it doesn't have the narrow scope, it can see it all. We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of go. I put up there, it's of God. The law of go. Maybe that's our new motto here at Agape. We're the law of go. Where do you want to go? That's the law. Okay. And that we are surrounded by this creative mind which receives a direct impress of our thoughts and acts upon it. My example of it is create a slide. Create a slide, and on that slide, create the best picture you can. And then you put it in front of the projector, right? And the light of the projector shines through that slide, and it goes onto the wall, and it projects an image. It only is going to project the image that you've got on the slide. So if you want something different in your life, you've got to put a different slide, or you've got to enhance the slide in the projector so the law can give you that. Because it's only going to give you what you put into it. Only going to give you what you put into it. We believe in the healing of sick through the power of the mind. In other words, there is no illness that cannot be healed if you put the mind to it. If the mind is connected into the oneness, into the idea that God is all there is, and I am one with it, that's almost instantaneous healing. Because there's no disease in God. There's only disease when there's a disconnection from source. So the whole idea there is healing is not the doctor, it's not the pill, it's not the surgery. Healing is the belief you have about it, which is what you're putting into the mind, and if you have that belief, you will heal. That's why some people having the same exact disease with the same exact treatment, some will heal, some won't. What do you believe? What are you putting into that slide? Are you putting a slide that's whole and perfect and healed, or are you putting into there, oh, I'm going to be a statistic? Remember, when a doctor gives a prognosis, the doctor's giving a prognosis based on an average. The question is, are you an average? I'm not. So if the average is 33% of the people get cancer, there's a whole bunch that never get it. I'm that. There's a whole bunch of people that have heart disease. I'm one that doesn't. You got to set the intention for yourself. And most of the time when we contract disease, we're not aware. We're not aware. We're allowing stress to come into our lives. And when stress comes into our lives, it weakens our immune system. When it weakens our immune system, we're open to receive things that are not very pleasant. We believe in the control of conditions. So we talked about sickness, but you can control the conditions. You can be wealthy using these principles. You can have great relationships using these principles. You've got to use these principles. People will say to me, well, I'm using the principles, but it's not showing up. Well, that's because you don't believe it. Because why? The law always gives you what you believe. That's your bellwether. If you're talking about not having something, the law hears you're not having it. And what's it going to give you? Not having it. So if you're fighting illness, you don't focus on illness, you focus on being on perfect health. You focus on perfect health. If you're not in a relationship, you say, I'm in the most beautiful relationship in the world. I'm with myself. We never argue. We have great conversations. I know what's physically pleasing to me, you know. I wasn't talking about that. But I see how your minds work. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, the eternal givingness of life to all. In other words, we believe that this law is present for all, and it's always present for law. Therefore, everyone has the ability to use it and change. No one is bound by something that they can't control. You may be in situations that you feel that you're a victim, but it's how you interpret the situation that gives you the experience. It's your perspective of the situation that gives you the experience. We believe in our own soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny, for we understand that the life of man is the line of God. We realize that our individual life is God living individually through us. That's powerful when you think it, embrace that idea. Oops. That's what we teach at Agape. Everything we teach is now, from that we bring in all the practical things so that we get to create the life that we want. And the question I ask is, are you still a dreamer? Do you dream about a better life? Or are you the type of person, you know, here's the thing. When you get up in the morning and you go to the shower, think about this, don't say it out loud. What's the first thing you do? Everyone does the same thing every day when they get in the shower. Me, I'm grabbing the soap, and I'm taking it like this, and I'm shoving it into this armpit. It's a habit. We have those habits in every aspect of our life. We think habitually. We act habitually. We do that in relationships. We have habits of money. We have habits about health. The question is, you've got to ask this question: are those habits serving you? If they're not serving you, now let's create a new habit or a new slide so that the law that we talk about can bring us that into our lives. And know that once you have that, you're going to think of something more you want, because you're always going to be wanting to experiencing more. This idea that in the Buddhist tradition that there's desire is bad. I don't agree with that one single bit. I've studied with them. I've talked to gurus about it. I don't believe it at all. You desire to have perfect peace. So how are you telling me there's no desire here? Think about that. They don't want any outside interruptions. They want non-attachment. Well, that's a desire. I believe we were brought here as us to experience life in its fullness. When I go to the point where I'm taking that last breath, I want to know there's not a drop of gasoline left in my tank. I've used it all. I've gone everywhere I can, experienced everything I can. What was it last night? And they're going to watch this, I'm sure. I have a couple new community members that are in LA. A gentleman by the name of Ian. I forget his wife's name. And every week, on their way to work, they're listening to the podcast of our talks. And he was telling me he sent me a video about a shaman that he found in Peru. And he's asking me to give him comments about whether or not I want to meet this gentleman. And I'm sitting there, I brought Jean down and said, hey babe, come on over. I said, look at this. I go, wow. All of a sudden, when you open up to attract new ways of seeing the world, the universe brings them in. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for a journey that I can take and take a bunch of people with me. That's a safe journey, not an ayahuasca journey. I've made the decision, ayahuasca, I don't want to have any of you with me on that journey. In fact, I've done that journey and I'm never going to do it again. I'm making that very clear. It is not a pretty picture at all. I want a journey that's safe but expanding, where people can go and experience the world differently. So, if you're into that idea, plant that seed in your mind and let that prayer grow, because it could be next year. I love teasing. Teasing keeps relationships good. Just don't become a total tease. Where do I go with this now? Let me tease you with this. Think about what you believe this week. Start thinking, what is it I need to do? Just one thing can I do differently this week that gives me freedom, that allows me to be a better me? Think about one thing you can do this week that makes you a better you, that takes you in your direction, and begin to do it. And what I will do this week is I will find another way to entice you next week to go a step further. Let's pray.
I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.